Hi, and welcome to another episode of Recover Loud. I'm your host, Mike Paddleford, and I recover loud. Last night, our recovery community was rocked by the news of the passing of our friend, Kari Morissette. Kari was a pillar in our recovery community. She was a harm reductionist, a mother, a friend, a recovery coach, and so much more. We are all very saddened by this news, and I'd like to dedicate this show to Kari Morissette. I'd like to wish all the mothers out there a happy Mother's Day. This is our Mother's Day show. Our guest today, Kayty Robbins, is a mother of 4 and has done the work to bring her family back together. Kayty says that her recovery journey has allowed her to be a present and healthy parent to her children. Let's listen as Kayty recovers loud.
Doesn't matter where you come from, it's alright. Yeah, yeah. It doesn't matter where you come from, it's alright. Yeah, yeah. It doesn't matter where you come from, it's alright. I came up from the bottom of a bottle with rebels and desperados. It was long days and hard nights, but I had to struggle for my dream, cause nobody else could see it. I was no one to turn to somebody with just a little faith. There's nothing I can achieve. Yeah, I was going the wrong way and then I turned right. But if I could be anybody, I wanna be me. Cause it don't matter where you're from, only matter where you going. Nobody giving me none, I'm placing a bet on myself and I'm all in. I got the mind of a broke man, mixed with the heart of a lion. I'ma keep giving my all, cause that's just who I am. Yeah, I'm a different breed, sprouted from a gifted seed, turned into a problem child, that was just my destiny. But if I could be anybody, I wanna be me. Yeah, I just wanna be.
I'm Kayty Robbins, and I recover loud.
Welcome back to another episode of Recover Loud. Tonight we're sitting with Kayty Robbins from Windham. Welcome, Kayty. I'm glad to have you here today.
Hey, Mike. Thanks. Glad to be here.
So, Kayty, you run a Facebook group, Rise and Grind Recovery.
I do.
And you are a certified recovery coach as well as a CADC, correct?
Correct. I just got my CADC, and I've been recovery coaching now for probably about 2 years.
Great. What else is it that you're doing in your personal life? What are you doing? What have you started?
So I have the group Rise and Grind Recovery. We've also taken it to a nonprofit level. We offer recovery coaching, recovery coach supervision, and peer support groups. I also just began working with Maine Prisoner Reentry Network to coach in the jails, so I'm doing that. And then I do Saturn Consultations, which is a spiritual consultation firm that I am in the process of starting up.
So, Kayty, your recovery involves spiritual practices.
It does.
How has that helped you?
So it has helped me tremendously. When I was growing up, I struggled with religion. My family is very religious. And that was a hard pill for me to swallow. I couldn't believe in that. I couldn't feel it. It just wasn't it for me. So once I got into recovery, I started to really, someone gave me crystals is how it started. And it worked. I felt better. And then really what happened, this is kind of weird, but pink tourmaline is a type of stone. I got one at the store and I had put it in a necklace, and pink tourmaline, what it does is it takes your self-doubt and the negative self-talk and the negative things you do and say to yourself and transforms that into self-love and care and just all of that. So, and that really was transformative from me, and it made me feel that way. It made me that self-doubt turned to positive self-talk and positive daily practices. And I just started doing rituals and meditating and going to the beach and really calling on the elements. And, you know, miracles happened. Things happened in my life that I saw that the universe was providing for me. And I just found belief in that.
Yeah. And, you know, we all, when we're using, we don't put faith in anything really. You know, if we have faith in ourselves, we oftentimes prove ourselves to be idiots.
Right.
But once we get into recovery, we get to see the bigger picture. And, you know, regardless of what it is that we find as a higher power, we understand that we are not it.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, I've said it before. I drove my life into the ditch and totaled that vehicle many times. But when I just let it go and accept, you know, things for what they are, and you know, put my faith in something bigger than me, you know, then I was able to start accomplishing more, and you know, not feeling so bad about myself,
Right.
because it's not all on me, you know. So your story involves your children.
Oh, yes.
How many kids do you have?
I have a little army. I have 4 of them.
4. And you know, this is our Mother's Day weekend show. So I do want to celebrate you as a mom. And a lot of times in recovery for a lot of us, you know, just having the opportunity to be the parent to our children, you know, is a huge win. How has that part of your recovery been?
So this is my favorite thing to talk about, as you know. So my kids are my whole life. If I didn't have them, I would definitely not be in recovery, and I would definitely not get out of bed in the morning, probably. But so my journey started with, yes, rehab. I had a DHHS case. I was open for about 2 years. I was successfully passing drug tests. And my not so wonderful son's father called DHHS and said she's been faking these tests, do a hair follicle test on her. So they did. Found out I was daily using forever, the whole time. So they offered me the option of, well, and I also had criminal court. So I was looking at 2 years in jail. And my DHHS worker said, "You're a good mom. I don't want to take your kids, but my supervisor's going to look at this, and it's not going to be my choice. She's not going to look at if you're a good mom. She's going to look at that you've been using consistently." And they gave me an option. We're going to take your kids, or you can go to rehab with your kids. And at that time I only had 2. And I was like, yes, I will go to rehab. It's how I avoided jail. It's how I kept my kids. It's how the foundation of my recovery. And I mean, there are stipulations, and you can't have more than 4, and they have to be under 5, I think. But it was just a really, like you said, when I was faced with it, my son's father wanted to keep my son while I went to rehab, and I had that option of like not bringing my son, and that just wasn't an option for me. And I'm thankful that Connecticut had that, because had I not been offered to go with my kids, I would not have gone.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, what a disaster that would have turned into.
Well, and for those that don't know, you know, when we go into a residential treatment setting, you know, we obviously don't use substances from day one.
Right.
You know, so what's the point of that 30, 60, 90-day program? Is to learn how to live without using. So for moms out there that used while they were raising their children, you know, my kids were around when I was using, you have to learn how to be the mom.
Yeah.
You know, and to deal with life's stresses while having other people, you know, dependent upon you.
Right.
So, you know, to take the kids away to get you better, it still would have been a learning process once you got them back afterwards.
And probably a reoccurring. Like I probably would have reoccurred, because for me, parenting, I love my kids, but it's that being alone, being in the house with my kids, it's kind of triggering. So having that opportunity, they also like they let us keep our phones. So they taught us to live with our phones. We had a whole group of like deleting contacts and, you know, working through how you act with a cell phone when you're not using substances. So
when you were growing up, did you have attentive parents? Did they teach you, what to expect, as you got older? Did you have that support as a child?
So I had support. Yes, I had support. I have a different story than some folks. I came from a really decent family. There was no substance use. I have an uncle that's been clean off cocaine for like 60 years. And I
That's
think
amazing.
he's the only person in my family that's done really too much besides myself, and I have a sibling too, but like he's never been like how I am or was. So I lost where I was going.
That's all right.
What did you ask me? I'm gonna have to start that over.
Yeah, switch cameras when she's, or before she starts talking again.
What was I talking about? Oh, my
So-
family.
Yes.
Okay.
What kind of family support did you have
Okay,
growing
right.
up?
So, so outside of my brother and my uncle, which didn't have issues like me, there was really none of that. So I was blessed in the way that my family is not supportive of substance use. So when I use substances, they kind of backed off. Like, what are you doing? Don't come around. Just, which was really helpful because it taught me independence. However, the flaw was I didn't know substance use existed. I didn't know DHHS existed. I didn't know people could take your kids. I didn't know you could die from drugs. Like, these are not things that I knew.
Yeah.
So where my childhood was good, I also had an entire lack of knowledge for an entire world that it was so fascinating when I found it. So
Yeah, so then obviously when something happens and you're unprepared to deal with it, and you've learned the coping mechanism, I can use and not feel this,
right,
it's a dangerous cycle.
it is.
So do you think, had you known any more, would it have changed anything about your...
Probably not.
Right.
I might have been a little more aware of what I was doing. No, I followed the boys, and the boys did the drugs, and that's just the way it went, and I probably would have done that anyways.
Yeah.
I just might have been more aware of like that the person I was seeing when I started with substance use and all that, I might have been more aware of what was going on.
Yeah.
And been able to identify that more. But I think
Yeah.
I think I would have made the same choices.
Yeah, so you just mentioned something that brought up a conversation we had just a little while ago. Identifying the traumas.
Yes.
We all end up using for whatever reason we find. And, we can list thousands of,
Oh, yeah.
reasons why people use. But basically, it's a response that we learn to deal with trauma. And trauma can be any instance, that you deal with.
Right.
Somebody else may not be traumatized by the same event, but for whatever reason, it affects us differently. So we go to using. When we get into recovery, it's really important for us to identify our triggers, deal with the situation, learn how to cope with it in a different way. But throughout recovery, it's a journey. We're constantly learning
Right.
what those triggers are. And for you and us, myself, working in the community, sometimes those issues don't really pop up until we see it in somebody else.
Right.
And then, of course, we have to work on it ourselves to keep ourselves safe. Do you enjoy giving back to the community?
Yeah, I think that, yes, absolutely. I think that my growth and my recovery journey is so strong because of the work that I do. So, but like in 2019, I did reoccur. I started my recovery journey in 2015. In 2019, I reoccurred. And prior to that, wasn't giving back. I wasn't recovery coaching. I didn't have a community. I didn't even believe that someone could have friends. Like, that was not even a thing that was real. So, getting into recovery and like learning that I can have friends and learning that there's a community and there's people and that you can love people and not expect anything and not everything's transactional, definitely has been beneficial to my recovery journey.
So we've just been sitting here talking about the loss of our friend Kari Morissette. She was more than a friend. She was more than someone in recovery. She was more than a harm reductionist. She was so many things to so many different people. And her mental health got the best of her last night. And, you know, those are the things after we stop using substances that we have to work on. A lot of us, when we're helping people in the recovery community, we don't feel like we can be, you know, in need of that help ourselves. We don't feel like we can mourn and grieve and have those negative emotions and experiences, but we can't not have them, you know.
Right. And I mean, by trying not to have them, I think we further damage ourselves, you know, like unfortunately you have to feel.
Yeah. And I mean, it's okay. Everybody in their life is going to go through loss,
Yes.
pain, grief. And we just have to make sure we deal with it in a healthy manner, you know?
There's the hard part.
Yeah. I mean, I never used to. You know, when my mom passed from cancer, I feel like I was higher than she was in the hospital, and she had a morphine drip. And when she started seeing her guardian angels in the bed, in the room with her, I believed her.
Yeah.
Because I knew that, you know, if I wasn't seeing them as high as I was, you know, then it must be something.
Right.
And, you know, afterwards, when I thought of that, that gave me some, you know, a little bit of relief that she wasn't going alone. But I didn't mourn her then, you know, and it wasn't until in recovery my grandmother passed, and I mourned the loss of my mom and my grandmother at the same time. And in the recovery community, I feel like I do the same thing. You know, I can be strong through this loss, and then another one comes around, and it hits me so hard, and I just feel it for every person we've lost, and their families, and their loved ones, and you know, who was left behind. You know, and then we get that survivor's guilt, and we question everything. Why are we still here? Why couldn't they get it? You know, what makes me any better or different? You know, and I don't know.
I mean, I understand what you're saying, because Kelly Palmer,
Yeah.
I didn't know her. But when she passed, I felt that, and I didn't even, I had never heard her name even before that happened, but I felt it, and I felt it for the people that know her. And these friends, these best friends to these people that are being lost, just, gosh.
Yeah.
And that's where, the people that we lose, right? I'm holding space for them. I don't want this to sound like I don't, but Ariel Nappy was Kelly's best friend. Molly is Kari's best friend. Just the effect that has, and just the whole community.
Well,
it's wild.
And the recovery community, we're filled with people who don't have the best coping skills.
No.
You know, I mean, we didn't. That's what got us here. So I worry about every one of the people that were touched by, you know, the person lost. And when it comes to Kari Morissette, I mean, she touched a lot of people.
Oh my God, more.
know.
That's wild.
Yeah, and I can honestly say that when I first got into recovery, I had my own ideas about harm reduction.
Right.
You know, and the first time I heard the idea of, you know, decriminalizing substances, I was like, no way, you know.
Right.
And then I heard Kari. I met Kari. I listened to Kari. And what she said made sense, you know. What Jesse Harvey at the time was saying made sense. People who use drugs don't deserve to die.
Right.
People who use drugs don't deserve to die.
Yes, that I support.
And, you know, that's the bottom line of it. You know, none of us deserve to die because of our life choices. But why can't we just
Save everyone.
or figure it out? You know, I mean, why can't we?
So unfortunately, in recovery, like you said, like the learning to cope, we're not all very good at learning to cope.
Yeah.
And so I've been in recovery pushing 7 years now. At 4 years, I reoccurred. And so I am like hyper aware of like the 2 to 5 year mark for not only me, but my friends. Like it's a dangerous place. And I'm like hyper aware of that. But even after that reoccurrence, even like learning to cope and like self-care is my thing. Like I meditate, I exercise, I do crystals, I do rituals, I do yoga, I do hang out with my kids, go to the park, like I buy stuff just because I'm buying something for me because it's self-care, right? Like, and I'm so big on self-care and learning to cope. And even myself, sometimes like I can't cope some days. The situation with my son, like, and you had said identifying trauma, like I just recently unpacked a illegal kidnapping that had happened. Like his father had illegally kidnapped him from me. And I hadn't unpacked that day until probably 3 months ago. Yeah. And I mean, and even that still, I packed it back up because still I don't know that I can cope with it. But I mean, it's hard to learn to cope, especially if you've used substances and ignored it and didn't have that as a child. Like my mom never taught me about meditating. My mom never taught me about self-development reading. Like my mom was good, don't get me wrong, but like I can teach my girls these things and teach them how to cope so that hopefully they don't have to run into these issues that we have. Like they will run into them, but hopefully they can cope better than we did or have or do. So
I was never actually introduced to meditation or yoga until I went into rehab. And, you know, I didn't really give it much thought. You know, we were required to go into this class and, you know, twice a week it was yoga and meditation. And I thought it was funny, a joke in the beginning, you know, it's like, oh, nap time. But after, you know, a few weeks of doing it, you know, I did start to feel better. Right. I started to look forward to those times. And I really enjoyed the meditation. How often are you meditating?
So I try to meditate every day, but I'm kind of bougie with my meditating. And now that I've done it a while, like I have a way that works for me. I like to meditate on the beach because I can do it without a guided. Like if I'm quiet, I need something guided. If I'm on the beach, I don't need guided. So I try to go to the beach. I try to do it every day, and I don't do too much. I do like 5-10 minutes. I mean, I walk on the beach, I lay, I do my crystals, and I do rituals, but my meditating portion is usually like, I would say about 7 minutes, but between 5 and 10. And, you know, I practice on an intention, and I lose it, you know. I get lost in the thoughts and the sound of the birds and all these things, but I mean, it's a practice. It takes time, and definitely you don't, at first it's like hilarious. Even one of the guided ones, it said to like be still and like a bag of rice, and Callie's like meditating with me laughing. I'm like, can you get it together, girl? Right. But like it is, sometimes it is funny at first, but like you said, once you feel that it's effective, it takes on a new thing.
Yeah. So can you tell us a little bit more about Saturn rising consultations?
Yeah.
What is your goal with that? What are you hoping to do?
So I don't necessarily know a solid answer to that. So, you know, Rise and Grind is a nonprofit in recovery coaching. You know, you can't charge for recovery coaching, not that I would want to, but like, it's a nonprofit thing. So I have knowledge, right? So, and I think my knowledge is valuable. So I wanted like a for hire part of it. So My plan right now is to just kind of like do the tarot, do like pendulum divination, and which is like a reading with pendulums. There's like a divination board, and how the pendulum swings, like will answer, and you ask questions and stuff like that. My big thing is rituals. Like I'm good at, like so Callie wants to get on a competition team for gymnastics, and so like I wish I brought it with me, but her intention for her ritual is to like be able to be mindful of coaching, to like to do things with passion. Like it's not, hey, let's get on the gymnastics team and do a ritual. It's like, let's do the things, listen to the coaching, practice, tighten up our moves, so that we will get ourselves to the point where we're able to get on that team. And like, so that's my big thing, and like crystals and grids and spells and how to do that. But I was also contacted by someone I met at Black Balloon Day who's in Grace House, and she's like, hey, will you come do a spell jar? I don't know, you've seen my spell jars. Like, can you come do a spell jar thing with Grace House one Saturday? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. And so that's another thing. Like, so once I get out and I do a few of those, like I would like to start being able to get hired to go into homes or go into treatment facilities and do like spell jar classes, or like I want to learn Reiki, which is like an energy thing. So like an energy healing type of ritual. So there's a lot of places I want to go with it, but also like I have my CDC. I want to be able to have a counseling firm someday. So it's kind of like guiding Saturn rising and rising grind to kind of like meet somewhere, so that when I get to the point where I can have my own counseling practice, I can have the spirituality, have the coaching, have the practice, and just kind of have like this kind of holistic spiritual treatment thing. I don't know necessarily what it is, but it's a thing.
Yeah, and that's great, actually. I've been watching you, geez, I don't even know when I met you. It was in recovery. Shortly after I started recovery on the road, I came to see you. You were running
the center. We must have met at the center.
Yep. And we'd met on Facebook before that, but you know, you're definitely somebody that's grinding for recovery. You really are. And you know, I see it every day. And you know, one thing, I mean, even creating this show a lot is I try to show the beauty of recovery. Yeah.
Well, and it's so beautiful. If you can harness that and believe in it, it's so powerful and wonderful.
Yeah. And you know, the biggest issue I have with doing this and showing all, you know, the great things is sometimes people think that, you know, we quit using substances, our lives are great, and we can do anything we want.
Right.
To an extent, that's true.
I was going to say, which we can.
Yeah.
However,
right.
I could have also done all these things 7 years prior.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and, you know, at that time, had you done it 7 years prior, you know, there's a lot of trauma that you wouldn't have gone through.
Absolutely.
Experiences that you wouldn't have. You know, so today, doing all these things, we have all that trauma to deal with. And, you know, just remaining aware that, you know, we don't recover.
Yeah.
We
are constant. It's a continuum.
Yes. And, you know, just like, you know, doctors practice medicine, lawyers practice law. In recovery, we're practicing recovery.
Right.
You know, just like anybody else who's still actively using, you know, we could be gone tomorrow because we still suffer with this disease that tells us that we're not worth it, that what we're doing is pointless, that people would be better off without us, that we're never going to make it, and, you know, choose to go out and use instead. So
I did that, right? I was 4 years good. I had taken a trip. I thought I had my shit together. I went to the place I had used. I'd been there a few times before. I was alone. I had a few bucks. You know, everything seemed okay. I was going to be all right. And then I was dead. And my entire life, my 4 years, like it wasn't gone, you know what I
Right.
mean? That is still very much part of my recovery. It's a huge foundation. However, I woke up from that, thank my daughter. But like it just, like I died after 4 years of doing it and doing it good and well and like gaining successes and in an instant. And then everything I'd worked for those 4 years was essentially like reset. Now we get, and like there was a foundation, and I had like coping skills, and I had all these tools to help me be successful for now my 3 more years, but just it is so real on
Well-
how quickly we can go from living well to not living at all.
Yeah.
So I had been in a domestic violence relationship. DHHS took my kids. I'd gotten them back. Well, my little one, the older one, went with her dad. So I was going to visit her, and I was supposed to bring her home for 2 weeks. And I went out there, and like I said, I was in the town that I used in Hartford, Connecticut. I was at the bus station. I was there all night. I didn't have money for a hotel, so I was just like, I'm just gonna kick it at the train station. Bad idea. Don't kick it at the train station or the bus station
In
in
Hartford.
Hartford. And I just thought, like, I'll just hang out here for the night, and the dad will bring her tomorrow, and we'll get on the bus and we'll go. I ended up obviously buying heroin, which is fentanyl at this point. And I was in the bathroom, and we were about to get on the bus, and I didn't want to shoot up on the bus, so I was like, let me go in the bathroom. You go in this stall, I'll go in this stall. And she went to the bathroom, and I was doing my thing, and it was taking me a while because I hadn't done it in 4 years, so I was like out of practice. And I did my shot, and I put everything away, and I said, I'm coming out, babe, we're gonna go get Subway. And I remember putting my hand on the door handle of like the stall, and I woke up with EMS. So essentially what happened was my then 5-year-old watched me fall out of a stall in the bathroom and die in front of her. And she was able to go get help. And I mean, the bathroom's disgusting there, right? So people aren't going to use that bathroom,
Right.
just like the bus bathroom's cleaner. So, I mean, had she not been there, I would not be here. I would have been on that floor for who knows how long. So she definitely, it's awful she had to witness that. I can't imagine being a little girl. And I mean, watching her mom die, I was dead. Like, they Narcaned me a few times. Like, so she saw me blue, she saw me dying. Like, so yeah, thankful for her. But also, I mean, it sucks that she had to go through that.
Yeah.
But
How old is she today?
she's 8. She's 8, and she still lives with Dad, but she comes often
How is that relationship today?
with me and Cal.
Yeah.
Great. We have slightly touched on the topic. She's like, I thought that was pills.
Right.
Does it matter what it is when you watch your mom die? I don't think it matters, but
Right.
no, it wasn't pills, it was fentanyl. And, you know, I tell my kids about fentanyl because I'm
Yeah.
nervous they're going to be like, hey, you got a Tylenol for a headache, and then they're going to die in gym class or something. So,
Yeah, so you're trying to provide that information,
Oh,
that
yeah.
education that you didn't have
Right.
when you were growing up.
right. And also like the meditating and the coping skills and self-development, and crystals and all this stuff. Like my daughter's a little witch. And I mean that like in a respectful like way. When I was pregnant with Anastasia the night before, she said, Mom, I'm making a potion for you to have this baby. And then the next morning I woke up in labor.
Wow.
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 So, you know, she's got the spiritual thing, she's got the magic, she's learning the coping skills, she knows about fentanyl, Narcan, knows what to do when someone dies in front of her. You know, I don't love our police force, I don't hate it either, but I'm thankful that I didn't instill the negative things that I have for the police into her,
Yeah.
so that she felt like she could go to someone and the police could show up and it was what it was. And there was a girl there that I'm thankful for that helped that process along too, because the cops were very stigmatizing and mean, and they weren't going to let me see my daughter. She was in the hallway screaming when I woke up, and they weren't going to let her near me because I'm some monster, right?
Right.
So And the EMS worker was like, no, we are letting this kid sit on her mom's lap. We're all here. There's like 8 of us, right? What's she gonna do? She's strapped to a, like, whatever that thing is. But she let me have my kid with me, and that was huge.
We all need help, and you know, I'm grateful for you putting yourself out there and helping others. You know, happy Mother's Day.
Thanks.
You know, I hope you guys can make the best of it tomorrow.
We're actually going to do outreach at
Of course you are.
the homeless shelter. I have a whole bunch of mom kits for the women.
That's great.
My kids are too young to do stuff, so we're just like,
Yeah.
we're gonna go help other people.
Well, and you're instilling that in them, you know, to help others and to love people regardless of their situations.
Love people, that's the big one.
Yeah, you know, and you know, I pray that you continue your journey of healing and growth, and you know, achieve all the goals that you set. You know, I think once we get into recovery, we set some lofty goals for ourselves, because you know, and one of the guests, Brett Martell, mentioned it. You know, I don't want quitting substances to be my greatest achievement.
Right.
You know, so I'm
That's
going
a good
to,
one.
Yeah, and I'm going to strive for more, and I'm, you know, I
Gonna
appreciate
rise
that.
and grind.
Hey guys, welcome to an episode of Tea Talk. Today's a little different. It's been a rough week, like for me personally up until yesterday, and now for everyone really. I had a lady die this week that was there for me when my mom left, and it's been very emotional already, and I'm heading to a funeral right when I leave here. And I lost my best friend last night, and yeah, I feel pretty guilty. She was at my door, I didn't answer it, and she went home and overdosed. And yeah, I just feel somehow like maybe we could have talked, it wouldn't happen. I don't know, but I feel pretty fucking guilty. That's all I know. Sorry for swearing, but there's nothing pretty about this situation. So it is what it is. But anyway, I'm thankful for you to be here. Like, this whole thing is so crazy, and obviously what you're doing is helping everyone too, including myself. So thank you.
Yeah, no problem. It is crazy, and I can relate to that guilt too. Kari had called me not yesterday, the day before, to check on me. I was hurting, and she called to check on me, and I didn't answer. I don't usually answer the phone for anybody. This is not uncommon for me. But you know, after I heard last night and went through my messages with her, and saw that I didn't answer that call, I was just like, you know, maybe if we would have talked and something was said, that might have been different. And I know a lot of other people that are feeling that guilt that you're feeling too.
Yeah. Yeah, it's rough.
It is rough.
I feel everyone in recovery is like rocked right now.
Yeah, this definitely has rocked our community to the core.
Yeah. Yeah, and I can relate to what you guys were saying about Molly and Jalen, because last night I was on the phone with Molly while it was kind of happening, and she was outside and it was on a video, and I could see everything going on behind her, and I'm like, I just broke for her, like, you know, and I was the one crying, like asking her if she's all right, and she was mad, like, and that's understandable, you know, like.
Molly was mad.
Yeah, and like, obviously her daughter is the one really hurting, and
Right.
it just was hard to hear, and like, you know, Molly, I've known Molly forever.
Yep.
Since we were like teenagers, and it's just nuts. And I live a street over, and I just wish I could have been there.
Yep.
So, but really, I guess there's really not much more to say unless, if you need help, you need to reach out, because like, clearly we're all doing well and still struggling, so you obviously must be too. So if you need help, reach out. All of us are here. And the only thing I can say is recover loud, because that's what's working. And thank you to everyone watching. Thank you for my wife to be the camera lady. And we love you, Kari. I'm never ever gonna be the same without you.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of Recover Loud. You can watch us on YouTube at Recover Loud. New shows premiere Saturday nights at 8 o'clock. You can also watch our shows Thursday night at 7 o'clock on PMC Channel 5 in the Greater Portland area.
Lex snort. So every time I call, you pick up the phone and always reminding me that I'm not alone. And even when I'm scared and my feet are frozen, you help me keep it going like a semicolon. Even if I'm lost, you helping me light the way. And even in the dark, you always keeping me safe. And everything I've lost don't compare to what I've gained. So no matter what it costs, yeah, I'll be willing to pay. Cause every time I call, you pick up the phone and always reminding me that I'm not alone. And even when I'm scared and my feet are frozen, you help me keep it going like a semicolon. So I'ma follow your steps for all of the way. I put my faith in you and walk on the waves. And if I stumble a bit and fall on my face, you come and save me with all of your grace. Yeah, thank God.